It's been far too long, and damn does it feel good to be back. Hey guys, this is Bill with the Nintendo Super Power Club Challenge channel, or NSPC3 for short. Today we are looking at one of the most difficult side-scrolling platformers on the Super NES. This is Final Fight, and this is card number 23 in the collection. So Final Fight made its big debut in the arcades, and then it made its way over to the home consoles shortly after, including the Super NES. If you've ever played the NES counterpart Mighty Final Fight, you'll notice a lot of similarities here. Obviously, the graphics and sound are souped up because it's a better system, but in terms of gameplay, very, very similar. Personally, I prefer the NES, which is kind of strange to say, but maybe it's because of the challenge factor. It's extremely difficult on the Super NES, and that's the reason I haven't gotten to it for quite some time. Speaking of which, let's take a look at this challenge and see exactly how tough it is. Well, you thought Mighty Final Fight was tough, wait till you get a load of this one. So the challenge says, using only the moves in which you grab an enemy, how many levels can you complete? For Pro, that's going to be 3 full levels. So clearly this is the complete opposite of what we saw in Mighty Final Fight on the NES. If you think back to that challenge, we were restricted to using nothing but punches. Here, obviously, it's nothing but grabs, so holds, throws, that sort of thing. The problem with using moves like this, of course, is that you have to get in very close, which puts yourself in a very vulnerable position against these enemies, which means no cheesing, no jump kicking, no special moves. To complicate things even further, many of these enemies have an ability to take off half of your life bar in a single swing, if not more. You'll see what I'm talking about later into the challenge. This probably took me close to 100 attempts, if not more. I really don't know because I lost track. I'm very happy to have this challenge out of the way, and hopefully you guys will enjoy watching it more than I enjoyed playing it. So sit back, relax, and watch Final Fight on the Super NES. Here we go. So as the game begins, you're going to have a choice of 2 options for characters here. Go with Hager. He is the better option for this run, mainly because he has more variety in the types of throws he can use. Cody does have a throw, but it's one throw only, and he is much more suited to standard attacks, punches, kicks, etc. here. So basically what you're seeing, this is the bulk of the strategy here. You're going to be doing throw, 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 but more importantly than that, you're going to be trying to throw the enemies into each other to cause double or triple damage in some cases here. Yeah, you could take them on one at a time, but obviously that's going to set yourself up for failure, and you're going to be much more likely to take damage. By the way, that was some money I just picked up. Money and points in general are actually very important in this run because every 200,000 points you get, it's going to score you an extra life. And in this particular run, where lives are very important and it's very easy to die when you don't have the ability to strike, lives absolutely matter here. So anytime you get a chance to get points, go ahead and get them here. Trust me, you will need them. So we talked a lot about throwing, a lot about keeping them into each other, and the other thing I would say in general here is try to suplex the enemies into the containers. As you saw, there was some food I just picked up. When you consider the fact that many of these enemies can do significant damage and even 50% smack you with one single attack, food absolutely matters here, so get it if you have the opportunity. And that's really going to take care of the first part of the stage here. I would say off the top, before we get any further, every single one of these levels has at least 3 different sections. So you're going to have 9 sections in total if my memory serves me correctly here. So that's the first section. You're going to move on to a second section. Also notice that the timer resets. That's not really that big of a deal, but it is something worth pointing out here. So the timer will always reset to a higher number than what you had previously, which is always a good thing. So you can't always just sit around and stop to smell the roses, so to speak. You do need to continue to move at a decent pace here. Another thing I would point out, as you probably noticed if you've been paying attention here, is that many of these enemies will approach you when your back is turned to them. If you are facing them head on, very few of them will have the courage and guts to actually come up and try to attack you here, which I suppose is a good thing. But when your back is turned to them, obviously that leaves you open to attack. So you have to be very, very careful. And you're going to be seeing a lot of this playthrough video is going to have me circling around or moving in a figure-8 motion pattern here. And that's specifically to avoid getting smacked right in the face head on here. And you're going to see instances like this where that's absolutely critical here. Now we have a couple special enemies here who will just try to headbutt ram you here. So getting in their face really up close and personal is required, but of course you can't be on the same plane as them. So that's another thing you want to take advantage of. So making sure that you are turning your back to get them close to you, but also not being on the same north and south plane. That's another strategy that you want to keep in mind. It's very similar to what we did with the Double Dragon 3 challenge, which is really going back in time, looking at historical challenges here. If you think back to Double Dragon 3, that was a challenge where we had to be on different planes north and south so that we didn't run the risk of the enemies just smashing us here. And it really came into play with the boss, and of course it comes into play with every enemy here, so it's probably for the best that we saved Final Fight for last in terms of these side-scroller beat-em-ups here. Every little strategy that we've seen up until now is now coming to the forefront here. So now we have another enemy, that Hollywood knife thrower here, and not too big of a deal, honestly, even though he has knives that he throws, because for whatever reason, he just comes right up and tries to get right in your face for a throw. So okay, thank you very much for the easy hits and attacks here. Now we're into stage 1-3, and it's more of the same up until we get to the boss. The boss, as you're going to see, is a big bruiser who likes to run, jump around, and will call more enemies to attack you rather than hit you himself, but more on that in just a moment here. We're actually running very close to losing a life, which is okay because we did get another life based on points. And we're very close to coming up on the boss here, but before we get there, we have this enemy called Billy, or the other one could be Jimmy, I always forget. No, Sid, okay, and the other one I know is Billy, the one with the green pants. So these enemies are typical thugs like you'd see, but the big difference with them, the spiked-haired ones with the mohawk with the glasses, is that they will jump all around the screen, and if they land on you, of course, they're going to cause significant damage here. So anytime you run into those enemies, be very careful. Now this one we haven't talked about too much, the one with the open jacket and the double-fisted gloves. That enemy can smack you for 50% if you just stand there like a douche and let him, so please don't do that. Get right up in his face, throw him into another opponent here. His name is Slash, by the way. So go ahead and take him out quickly to avoid potentially losing a life, and beyond that, not a whole lot else you got to worry about heading into the boss fight here, and it's coming up right about here. The boss's name is going to be Thrasher. I always think it's Smasher. No, it is Thrasher, and he will jump around, do a somersault jump. After you give him a couple of throws, he will jump over here to the wall, and he will whistle for more of his friends to come help him. So that's kind of annoying, but honestly, it's nothing you can't handle, nothing you haven't already done before. So once you get a couple of hits in on these regular cronies, just go back to what you normally do and keep on throwing him. Try not to get killed like this. Honestly, it's not a big deal because as we enter stage 2, you'll see exactly why. There is a certain particular strategy that we're going to be applying to later levels here. So with that in mind, don't feel bad if you end up losing almost all of your lives in this first run through. It's not that huge. As far as Thrasher himself goes, as you can see, he's got a lot of enemy friends to help him, but once you get him to whistle twice, he will start fighting for real, and he'll actually try to attempt to get you the real way. And we got one final enemy here who just killed himself with some dynamite, and then Thrasher's life bar will start to go down the real way. Typically it was colored green, now it's yellow. One more suplex will do him in. There it goes. So that's going to take care of the first level. We got 2 more to go, and I assure you the remaining 2 levels are going to be considerably harder than this one. There will be different, stronger enemy types that you've yet to see. But before we talk about any of that, we got a little problem we have to deal with here. We are in a brand new stage with only 3 lives, and you might be thinking, okay, what's the problem here? Well, if you run out of lives, you have to use a continue. And the problem with a continue is that you start back at the beginning of the entire level here. Not the game, thankfully, but the level. So if you are at a point in this run, which you will be when you have less than 5 lives, do what I'm doing here, take the deaths, burn a continue, start over with a fresh set of 5 lives. I know it seems dumb and tedious and stupid, but trust me, in a challenge like this, where you have to put yourself in terrible positions here to get damage and throws and kills, this is what you gotta do. Trust me on this. Now we're going to start this level over with a fresh set of 5 lives, and we'll do it for real. So we start off level 2 here, and it's really a lot of the same things we've already seen. You got a couple barrels here right in the middle. Now interestingly, that enemy right there, Slash, wearing the jacket and 2 gloves, kind of destroyed one of the barrels for us. Now had this been a regular playthrough, as you can see there was a crowbar or a pipe that was out. We would have had the ability to kind of use that against our enemies, but obviously in a run like this where you can only use grabs and throws, that is kind of pointless. So just leave it on the ground. There will be areas of this game where you're going to have multiple weapons on the ground, and you'll have to do your best to avoid picking them up and accidentally using them against your opponents here. So thankfully that's not the case right now, but there will be occasions later in this level, and certainly in level 3, where you have to actually avoid picking up the weapons here. And even now, we're getting into a situation where we have to kind of avoid those weapon pickups here. So we get past Billy, the green-haired Sid version. We had a couple tougher enemies, and here we have a new enemy that we haven't seen before. This is Ondor Jr. There's also an Ondor Sr. There's a couple other variations of this Ondor punk rock wrestler, so to speak. And he can be extremely devastating. There will be an occasion later in this run where you're going to have to face multiple Ondors, if you can believe that. And they can outright destroy you and take several of your lives, and honestly, they could end your run very quickly if you're not careful and paying attention. So, we end up getting through that first section here. You'll see plenty more Ondor, trust me on that. We're going to have a lot more open area here. This is just generic, stereotypical thug enemies. It's nothing you haven't seen before. As long as you keep them all on one side and you're able to isolate them and throw them into each other, it's nothing you can't handle. So, honestly, for that reason, we're just going to skip ahead to the latter part of this level, and we'll just see you on the flip side. Okay, we come out of hyperdrive, and that was pretty rough. We lost about 2.5 lives there because we got trapped in the middle. That was not fun, and as you can see, some of these areas of the stages are quite long. You have to have solid fundamentals, if there is such a thing in a side-scroller, and you have to be dialed in at all times because you never know when these enemies are going to start ganging up on you or coming at you en masse, as I like to say. And we're not done yet. We have another, not difficult, but long section of just regular thug enemies coming at us. And believe it or not, these regular thug enemies are some of the toughest ones. If you don't count maybe Slash, for instance, who can take half of your life in that single swap, in that single swipe, I should say. This guy, Elgato the Knife Thrower, we've already talked about why he's not that tough. Billy can be tough if you let him jump all over you. Once again, nothing we haven't already seen before, so we're going to go right through this section one more time, and then we have a boss fight coming up, which actually will be difficult. But we're basically at the boss right now, so the only piece of advice I would give you heading in is to make sure you have at least 1, maybe 2 lives. Trust me, you will need them. I'm kind of under-prepared for this, but I'm going for it anyway. I'm taking a big chance. So this is a samurai boss, and oh lord, automatically we've lost a life with 1 samurai swipe there. So, gotta be very careful. We lose 1 more life and we're done. We gotta repeat this entire second stage. But thankfully, the strategy for killing this boss isn't that difficult. You just have to get on a different plane, north or south of him, and then you can suplex him with ease. It's not as tough as I made it look there. If you get in front of him or behind him, you're going to get hit pretty hard just like this. And 1 more swipe or hit could possibly do it in for us, so we got to be very careful here. This is the way you got to do it. Get above or below. 1 more suplex should do it. Got to be very careful also not to pick up any katana weapons here. And oh my goodness, so careful. We got him. We took him out. That takes care of the second stage. That was very close. We would have had to repeat that entire second level. Thankfully, that's not the case here. So we're going to get a break here, and believe it or not, we're going to get a bonus round that resembles Street Fighter 2. If you remember the time you had to beat up that car and break it and bust it up, it's the same thing here. It's nothing you don't really need to worry about. Let the timer run out. You can hit it if you want to. It's kind of pointless. Now, if you get a high score, maybe that can help you get an extra life, but when you have 0 lives, again, nothing to worry about. So we're just going to skip through here. We are going to take a death on the start of the 3rd level, and then we'll start over for real. Okay, now we're entering the third and final stage of this challenge, West Side, and you're going to see, in my opinion, this is definitely the toughest of the 3 stages, and rightfully so. As it starts out, you're not going to have anything too difficult, nothing you haven't seen before, but you are going to see a couple of these on-door enemies, the big brute 70s style wrestlers, whatever you want to call them. Quite funny and also quite dangerous when they pair up, and they will, and you're going to see a couple instances of that. Thankfully, you're not seeing it yet, but I would say, oh, here's the first instance right now. This is Ondor Jr., and then you have regular Ondor. There's really no difference between the two, except maybe in health. I think one of them might have more health than the other, but honestly, it's pretty much the same. Now, here's the regular Ondor. Again, I think it's possibly health, but that's pretty much it. And the big problem with these two enemies is that they can grab you and they can drain, like I said earlier, about 75% of your health, if not more, if they get you in a hold. They can do a pile driver. They can do certain types of moves that I really don't want to make a thought about what they could possibly be. Quite interesting and suggestive, but I digress. So, and you have to fight these enemies. Obviously, make sure that you throw enemies into Ondor or throw Ondor into the enemies. And just like any other enemy, do not be on the same plane as them, get above or below, and then continue to do what I'm doing right here. It will take quite a few hits to take Ondor down, but once he does go down, you can continue on through here. Once you complete this section, you're going to have one area, and I believe this is the only area of this challenge, where you do have to use a punch or a striking attack in order to continue. And you'll see what I mean right up through here. There's a door you got to punch yourself through right about there. So go ahead and do the punch. Now you're going to go into a new area, bar area, and I think this is kind of cool to have people in the background or foreground looking on. The problem with this section is that, yeah, you got regular enemies, you have the Hollywood knife throwers, but it's a very thin, narrow corridor, so you don't have a whole lot of room to maneuver around here. You could find yourself losing a life, possibly two, if you're not careful and you don't take it seriously. You could take a chance to throw these enemies into the barrels here. I believe some of them do have power-ups and health. They may have a weapon here. Ooh, and this is pretty bad. Ooh, bad luck. Got stabbed by the Elgato knife enemy here. We did lose a life, actually two within 2 screens. And the problem here, of course, when you don't have the option or ability to punch or use your spinning clothesline attack, sometimes you have no choice but to just take the damage. And if you're caught in between 2 enemies, as I've said earlier, you might lose a life. There's nothing you can do about it. You can try jumping away, jumping straight up. There is no way to escape it. So anytime you get an enemy in a hold or you have a chance to maneuver out and away, do it. You've only got 5 lives, and I know that looks like a lot, but in a challenge like this, every life matters here. You're going to see we're not even in the toughest part of this challenge yet. Now we have the G-Orb or Bill Bull. You got these enemies that love to dash into you here. Thankfully, they're easy to grab, so just keep suplexing them into each other, and you shouldn't have too much of a problem here as long as you don't let them get a chance to dash. Stay on top of them, kill them quickly, and of course you got a slash enemy. So some of these special enemies are now starting to come out en masse. They're starting to team up on you. Take them out quick, or you're going to find yourself in big trouble here. And beyond that, this is nothing that you haven't already seen before, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip through to the tougher section of this level. Alright, we're ramping up for a big fight with Ondor. Well, we just took out one Ondor, and that's going to be a sign for what's to come here. So check this out. We're now in a cage fight with, what? 2 Ondor twins? Yeah, this is by far the toughest area of this entire challenge here. Made more complicated by the fact that you cannot strike them. You have to grapple and hold with them. So take a look at this. Any strike they hit you with up front is half of your life bar. If they grab you like this, they can eye gouge you. That's basically 75% of your life bar. They can pile drive you. Basically, it's like fighting Zangief in Street Fighter 2. Pretend it's a level 7 Street Fighter. Not fun. You cannot get caught by one of these guys. If they grab you, it's very bad news. So as you can see, do not let them jump on you either. If they knock you down, they will attempt to jump on you. Thankfully, we made this look a lot easier than it normally is for me. Oftentimes when I played this, I would lose 2 or even 3 lives because of bad luck and just terrible RNG. So thankfully that wasn't too tough. Now, when you get to this part of the game, you definitely need to have at least 1 to 2 lives because the upcoming Stage 3 final boss is extremely difficult and cheap, to say the least. You're going to see exactly what I mean when we get up to it. Right now, we're just facing a whole lot of special enemies that we've seen previously. By the way, always go for the ham in that particular dumpster right there. So there's always a ham there. Make sure that you get it because obviously that thing's going to refill your health to full, very useful to have that at all times. Beyond that, it's a whole lot of stuff that we've seen previously. Now, this particular section can be difficult because of the cars in the background that are making the corridors a little more narrow than you're used to seeing here. So you gotta play very conservative, uptight, not a whole lot of room to maneuver, like we've seen in stage 2, I believe, with the bar, or maybe that was early stage 3, but regardless, you need to make sure that you get in close, don't be afraid of these guys, suplex them into one another. You know, it's pretty much the same stuff that we've been doing for the first half of the challenge here. Nothing's really changed. It's a lot of simplistic goon enemies here, and like I said earlier, a lot of times these goon enemies tend to be tougher than the special enemies, especially when they gang up on you here. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're just going to have a few more of these, a couple more Billy Sid type enemies, and then once we're through that, we're going to have a very interesting, difficult encounter with the final boss of this challenge for stage 3. So we're going to skip forward to the final boss fight, and we'll see you there. Okay, we have one final Sid enemy to German suplex, and there we go. Take him to Suplex City, and now we've got the final boss of this challenge, Eddie E, the corrupted cop. And this is going to be a nightmare if you let him get a hold of you, much like the Ondor twins. So, as you can see, he has a billy club, which he will not hesitate to use. And worse than that, as he starts to get low on health toward the end of this fight, he will break out his gun, and he will shoot it, obviously. Now, the bad thing, of course, is if you get hit with the gun, you're going to take a hell of a lot of damage, if not die. But the good thing is, he is indiscriminate about who he hits. If he shoots one of the enemies, he can actually kill them, so it can be helpful if you're able to line up your shots with him, so to speak. Now, right now, I see how he's moving fast. He's trying to get a clear shot on you on the edge of the screen, so soon enough, he is going to be taking out the gun to get a shot. Thankfully, we are getting to him before he gets to us, and oh, there goes the gun. Now, he shot us, but he also shot the enemies, and unfortunately, we took a death. But thankfully, he's only got one little German suplex left in him. He takes it, he goes down, and this challenge has gone down. So we can mark challenge number 23 in the books, take it off the list, and we have 50 challenges left to go. If you would have told me that 6 years ago I would have completed 120 of these challenges, I would have called you insane, but that's where we're at. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. We look forward to seeing you in the next one.